Hello and welcome to the Curator Salon podcast. I'm your host, Geeta Joshi. Today, I wanted to share something that I am seeing amongst the artists in my growing audience. And this is a bit of a gap between the audience that I have now, which is on social media, it's about 50K, and the audience I had when I was starting out. Now, when I was starting out, I was really kind of speaking to a lot of artists who were around the same kind of peer group or just behind those sorts of artists that I had repped when I was running the physical space as a gallery and then when I was running it online and in other ways. And this is really about the kind of level of experience and understanding how to sell art. All the time there are new people entering the marketplace, or they want to take their work and actually, be compensated for it, right? Art is something a lot of people are making in the background of their lives, while having day jobs and things like that. And they're seeing more and more people actually showing up and selling their art and thinking, okay, well, I could be doing that as well, but how do I get started? And what happens is people start just copying those artists that you're seeing online, whether they're sort of spinning paintings or something like that, and hoping to for that to transition into a sale, which unfortunately isn't often the case. But what I am noticing is that there's a lot of artists out there that are trying all these different things and it's just not fitting together. And what that means is, what you're trying on social media might not then be congruent with how that digital representation is on your website or when somebody looks for you on Google. So I've put together a 4-week program, which I used to run back in, I think it was 2020 or 21, called Art Biz Foundations. And it really is about having the foundations of your art business in place and using that, having that sort of solid foundation, making it much easier for you to then go and show your work or, reach out to galleries or whatever else it is that you might want to do, apply for grants and things like that. So I just wanted to run through some of these kind of topics that we're going to be covering inside the program, and then you can maybe assess where you might even have gaps. And the first one is about the online presence, right? Having a professional online presence is, yes, it is your website, and really we want to be thinking about how people navigate around it, how much information you have on there. Your website is really your digital home for everything you have done, right? So if you've appeared in blog posts or you've been interviewed on podcasts and things like that, of course it is a good idea for all of these things to be referenced under one of the sections or one of the pages on your website. And then making sure that your website isn't so overwhelming, especially if you are trying to sell work. It's pretty common. I see artists literally throw everything up on their website all at once, thinking that this is providing choice, but too much choice can also create overwhelm. So there has to be a balance. The professionalism of presentation. Obviously, you're a visual artist, so there has to be a visual sensibility around this as well, right? Making it kind of user friendly, like how people can navigate around it, what information is on the various pages. Of course, making it effective so that people can actively purchase on there if that is something you want, unless you are going to be directing people to some other online marketplace. But of course, you may as well just activate the shop feature on your website, especially if you're using Squarespace or Wix or WordPress, for example. And then something else around your online presence is the SEO, the search engine optimization, making sure that you are found when people go searching for you online. Let's face it, anytime you kind of see something new, it doesn't have to be a piece of artwork. It can be a service. It could be something that you might want for the home or anything like that. If you see that on social media, you are quite likely to go and then use one of the search engines or even Chat GPT these days to actually go and look them up and find out more about them and what else they might have in that range of, let's say you were looking at office chairs or, something like that. You might want to actually have a look around and, kind of see what other people have said about them and kind of learn more about the founder's story and all these sorts of things. So your online presence is a combination of, the presentation on your website, but also the SEO, meaning that it is very easy for you to be found, especially if you have a name that might be a pretty common name from, wherever you are, that, some lawyer from the Midwest that has the same name as you doesn't kind of rank higher than you, for example, right? So this is the search engine optimizing your website for search engines such as Google, Yahoo, Bing, and so on, and then making an easy customer experience. So these are some of the kind of things that I would suggest as a checklist, really kind of think about that for your website. One of the things I see a lot is that when artists have made their own website, they've put so much time into it, you almost have tunnel vision. It's really hard to see it from the outside. So it's a good idea to get somebody else's eyes on it and understand, where there might be gaps, or if there's some obvious information missing, like, I don't know, like shipping cost or something, for example, or how people reach out to you, for example. So that is something we're going to be covering inside Art Business Foundations, and I'll work with you on that. And then before we do any of that, of course, there is what we typically call the artist statement. But really, this is about getting clear on what your art is about, what motivates you, and who your ideal customer is. Your ideal customer might not identify as a collector. They may just simply be buying art because they enjoy it. And understanding who your ideal customer is going to make all the other things much easier for you. So, this kind of social content you make, the way you write to your mailing list, for example, knowing who your ideal customer is and what moves them is something that can really help shape your content and make it much more potent. So you're really only making content to call in the right people for your art. You're not kind of creating content for typically other artists, right? This is something a lot of people say. Is like when most people that are liking my posts are just other artists. I mean, artists can, of course, be buyers as well. But, when we are trying to look to sell our art, it is important to think about, like, who would be the ideal person for this artwork? What is it about this that would actually resonate with that ideal person, and so on. And this was something that when I ran this program I think we started the last cohort in July and we just finished last week. That was something the participants on the program found really eye-opening. It was, where they might have said, I know that my ideal buyer has a household income of this amount and they're aged between this age range, or they're aged over 40, for example. We were really able to dive into that so much more and actually look at what their desires are, so that the content that the artist makes, both on their socials, their media, their mailing list, their website, all these places, and even if they were going to go on interviews or anything like that, they know that they're speaking exactly to the right people. So this is one of those really important things. You can be learning all the tips and tricks on social media and things like that, but if you're not speaking to the right people, then you can, that's cute to go viral, but if it doesn't translate into sales, you're obviously missing a beat there. Moving people from social media to your mailing list, so it becomes an audience that you actually own, because we see a lot of apps and social media platforms just like not performing as well as they used to. We can think of, like, back in the day, things like MySpace has gone, Clubhouse. Was that around? Like maybe 2021. That had a moment, and then we all kind of got bored of it. And so on. So, as these sorts of platforms evolve, you really want to be moving people over to your mailing list, because that is an audience that you take with you as your practice evolves, as your business grows, as your business evolves, and knowing how to attract them over to your subscriber list. Because when you say join my mailing list, let's face it, nobody wants to join another mailing list, do we? Like, we don't want to be even like tagged as a subscriber. Like, that in itself is not an incentive, right? So there has to be some more incentive and more kind of enriching experience that I'm going to have when I actually do sign up for your newsletters or something. So we're going to be talking about incentives to attract subscribers over to your mailing list, so you can start building out an audience that you actually own. And of course, it means obviously using email and CRM software, able to reach your audience when the social media platforms are not working, or should your account get hacked or lost or disabled or anything along those sorts of lines, you still have a way of continuing to run your business and getting in front of the right people. So attracting your subscribers, growing your mailing list, and the kinds of emails that you should be sending to them. And just as an aside, actually, I do have a nurture email sequence. So if you have this part in place already, but you're like, well, what do I send them now that, when people subscribe? I do have a nurture email sequence, and I'll add the link in the show notes, but that basically gives you an outline of the 3 emails that you can be sending them to nurture them as soon as they arrive, remembering that when somebody actually enrolls on your mailing list, this is the time that they are the most engaged. So of course you don't want to like leave them waiting for your, once a month newsletter, for example. And then we're going to be, talking about the different emails for, the nurturing, and then the different parts of your business through the year. So if you are running sales launches or you have events and things like that, then the sorts of emails to be sending them ahead of these sorts of events to, really kind of get their engagement and their buy-in and, move them over from being passive subscribers to active collectors of your work. We're also going to be talking about the different ways to sell your art. Again, this is something that a lot of newbie artists think that, right, well, I just need a gallery. Well, before you have a business, of course, before you have a gallery, you do need to have a business in place, because galleries are business to business transactions, right? Selling your art through a business, as in a gallery, is a business-to-business transaction, and so you need to have your business up and running. And this is where you can make it easy for yourself to actually even find the right galleries by understanding who your audience is and having that level of professionalism in place, so you look more like a peer, and it's a more peer-to-peer transaction and relationship rather than a hobbyist to a business, let's say. So the different ways to sell your art, and one of the ones we're going to focus on is really learning to sell directly, because when you have that in place and you understand how that works and how to do that effectively in a way that is not going to cause burnout, that is going to be something you'll be able to essentially like switch on and off as and when it suits you, right? As you have a new body of work, or maybe you have an exhibition in the pipeline, but that doesn't kind of follow through, it falls through, and actually, you know what, you're going to just like put it out there yourself. So how we nurture, how we kind of manage that kind of a sales launch, and then you get to choose how frequently you do it. And of course, this can obviously dovetail into other things you might be doing. If you have exhibitions or you're applying for open calls, those things in themselves might not be the sales generators, and you're probably going to be losing commission to event organizers and things like that. So that is why it's really important to understand how you can sell your art directly from the studio. Just as an aside on that, one way to expand your digital presence and sell your art is through online platforms, online marketplaces such as Sota Marketplace, Saatchi, Rise Art, and there are others out there. And I do have a standalone class on this as well, like how to make your listings actually stand out much more over all those other artists that they have on those platforms. So I will add a link to that one as well. That one is called Max Your Online Art Sales. Learning the different ways to sell your art is really potent, because even if you are looking for somebody to do any of this work for you, you're going to be the person that's hiring them. So you need to know this stuff, right? You need to know how you can sell before you can hire somebody to, create the email campaigns. If you were going to hire a copywriter, for example, or you're going to get a studio assistant, even if that is somebody that is going to be doing it remotely, you're going to actually have to provide a job description, which is what this program actually helps you understand what you need to be doing in your business, so that as and when you're ready, as you grow, you can outsource elements of this work. So the other thing we're going to be covering inside this program is social media. Now, with this, we are going to be looking at buyer psychology and consumer psychology, so that you understand how to create content that actually converts into sales, into subscribers, makes you stand out over the other artists somebody might be following. And we're also going to be doing some training on viral reels. Viral reels, I should add, is not in itself directly something that can make sales, but it can. But viral reels is really about reach, and you need to have content on your social media page, let's say Instagram, that now when people come over, they have got other things there to binge. So, we can't be waiting for every reel to go viral. We have to kind of balance it with more enriching content or personal content, because here's the other thing for all the people that are avoiding any kind of personal content, whether that be your backstory or just something that you do when you're not actively making art, is the thing that helps us have that human to human connection. When Facebook did a survey several years ago, actually, I think it was about 2017, and they asked people, why do you go on Facebook? The number one answer they had, which was like 90+%, was, I don't know why I go on Facebook. So here's the thing, we're not actually going there to shop. Now, some people might now and again, but we go there just because we are now conditioned to, this is how we spend 5 minutes. This is what we do when we're waiting for the train, or we're sitting on the train, or we're just, catching up with things. So, the social media becomes a source of all sorts of things, of news, of, things that we can buy. It is a different way of seeing the world, but it is also engaging in other people's kind of personal journeys and stories and perspectives and all that sort of thing. So talking about your art is one part of it, but also kind of balancing this and getting comfortable having more than just a showroom. Your social media feed being literally just a showroom is also something that you need to do, and you'll see a lot of artists do this very effectively. But I also appreciate that sometimes this, for some artists it can mean like really coming out of their shell because they're worried about who's going to be looking and commenting and all these sorts of things. But we look at viral reels, sort of content that has typically gone viral across all sorts of different industries and for artists, and it doesn't involve dancing or twirling paintings, but making sure that you then have a feed where people can, where they are called in from, a viral reel, that they are able to binge other content and be similarly, entertained, or have a more enriching experience of your work, or want to hang around and actually move over to hit that follow button. So making your account grow as well that way. So we are going to be covering social media, learning the different ways to sell, emails to send for your different events, launches, and so on, the event incentives to actually attract subscribers to your mailing list, getting clear on what your art is about, your artist statement, all that kind of thing, and of course your ideal customer, and then having that overall online presence that shouts professional and not hobbyist. That is what this program is about. It's called Art Business Foundations. If you are somebody that has maybe one or two of these areas in place, or you think, I actually just need to get this fine-tuned, or maybe you've got your mailing list in place but you're not actively growing that database of subscribers, then this can be the program for you. So where we kind of really get through this. It's a bit of a sprint, I will say. It's 4 weeks, and this is just so that you can really get onto it. We're not drawing out for weeks or months. And, most of the things that we talk about in this program are very actionable, but it just means that, you would be set up for a strong autumn or fall selling season, because as we are approaching the end of August, we are entering the biggest art selling season of the year. So that is what this program is about. I'm going to add the link in the show notes. If you enroll before Tuesday, then you can obviously take advantage of the early bird rate, and there are payment options through Klarna as well. One thing about this program is that I am working with you on this. It's a small group program, which is by choice, because I really wanted to give everybody that personal feedback or input, or customize some of the examples to the sorts of artists that actually enroll on the program. So this is, of course, one of the most affordable ways to get my personal input on your business and, get your questions answered and so on. The sessions are all on Wednesdays. And then on the second and fourth week, we'll also have extra sessions on the Friday. And these are more open forum kind of questions. So anything you've been working on and you've got questions around, we've got time to, actually address that, right? What is coming up for you. But these are also occasions if you wanted to ask about something else, or take a kind of longer term view of, I don't know, what sorts of open calls would be appropriate to apply for, or anything like that, then these would be the sessions. And that is why I added them in, so that we can have that more open conversation, open forum kind of thing to touch on different things. Because I feel that when you have that knowledge, like I said, one, you can obviously hire people to do more specific things on your behalf, right, within your business. But this also means that you're able to move forward with confidence. You're not second guessing yourself. You know what the right steps are for you. You understand what your brand positioning is, what you want to be known for. And that can really help you decide, which opportunity is the right one, or which one is, worth passing on this occasion, or something that is worth working towards for the future. So that is what this program is about. It's called Art Biz Foundations. I'm going to add the link in the show notes, and you can DM me over on Instagram if you've got any questions before enrolling.